You know, there was always a clear division of labor in our family. My older brother, Brad, existed to be proud of him. And I existed to avoid causing trouble. Brad was a classic golden child. When at 19, he crashed his father's SUV while drunk with friends, his parents said, "Well, it happens to everyone, he's just trying to find his way." When he dropped out of college for the third time because the professors were picking on him, my mother cried and paid for him to take yet another business course, which, of course, he also didn't complete. Every failure of his was transformed into an excuse for the family to save itself. His debts were covered from the family budget. His Honda Civic was repaired at my father's expense. Brad was a master at converting his helplessness into parental love. I grew up with a clear understanding. There were no resources for me, neither financial nor emotional. If I was sick, they told me to drink tea. If I got an A, my father would glance at my grade book and say, "Okay, that's how it should be. Go help Mom." I was invisible, trying so hard to be perfect, naively believing that love could be earned through good behavior. While my parents were chasing Brad, I realized my only ticket to freedom was a job. I took a low-level position at a local IT company, technical support, a headset, 12 hours on my feet, and endless calls from angry customers. Instead of parties and dates, I locked myself in my tiny, damp-smelling rented room and crammed. My goal was the CompTIA Security Plus certification. Anyone in the know knows what hell it's like without a relevant education. I fell asleep with my laptop on my chest and woke up at 5 in the morning to cram tests before my shift. People looked at me like I was crazy, but I passed the exam. On my first try, it earned me a spot in the cybersecurity department and a decent salary. But even then, I continued to live like a student. 4 years, I drove an old 2014 Honda Civic. It already had 187,000 miles on the odometer, the air conditioning barely cooled in the summer, and a deep scratch on the bumper. But it was mine, and I didn't need a loan. I saved every penny. During the pandemic, when everyone was ordering food delivery and buying gadgets, I ate rice and chicken. The result, $47,600 in the bank. My down payment, my independence, smelling of fresh paint and new wallpaper. And so the day arrived. I officially closed the deal and received the keys to my house. Not an apartment, but a house with a small garden. That evening, I decided to have a family dinner. A real, festive one. I baked a chicken using my mom's signature recipe with a crispy crust. I made a special stop at the grocery store and bought yellow tulips. My mom always said they reminded her of her youth. I set the table for 4. It was 7 p.m., the time we'd agreed upon. At 7:15, the chicken began to dry out, and I caught myself checking my phone every 30 seconds. At 7:40, I went to the vase for the third time and adjusted the tulips so they stood perfectly straight. My phone screen remained dark. Not a call, not a message in the family chat. At 8 p.m., a deafening silence reigned in the house. I sat alone at the huge table, looking at the cooling food, and suddenly it became clear. They weren't coming. They weren't stuck in traffic. They'd simply forgotten. Forgotten that their daughter had accomplished something Brad would never achieve in his life. My dad didn't call until the next day, closer to lunch. There wasn't a hint of guilt in his voice. "No, sorry, Madison. We couldn't do it yesterday," he muttered dryly into the phone. Brad's car started knocking again, so I had to take him to the service center, or they'd cheat him. And anyway, why do you need such a big house? Alone. Why all that expense? Something inside me snapped. There was no anger, no desire to scream. A terrifying clarity set in. I took a deep breath and asked quietly, "Dad, I just want to know, are you even a little proud of me?" There was a long, suffocating pause. I could practically hear him sighing heavily on the other end of the line, searching for words that wouldn't hurt his ego. "Madison, that's not the point at all," he replied. And at that moment the puzzle came together completely. He was right. It really had never been about the house. Home is just bricks, glass, and wood. The real story was about years of emotional neglect. About conditional love, doled out to me in teaspoons only when I was convenient. About the moments when I literally begged them to notice me, just to hug me and tell me I was great. In that second, I looked at my house keys and realized I wouldn't beg anymore. My close friend, upon hearing this, shook her head. "Madison, what they did was so sad. I'm so sorry." But I smiled and told her, You know, done is different from sad. Sadness is lingering. It requires endless resolution, a showdown, tears, and new grievances. But closure is different. Closure is when you silently, without drama, close the door. You don't turn around. You just lock it. I didn't launch a public vendetta, didn't run to my relatives to complain, and didn't write angry posts on Reddit. Revenge is for those who still hope to prove something. And I didn't care anymore. The following Saturday, my kitchen smelled of lemon zest. I baked my signature lemon pie. But it wasn't my biological family sitting at the table. The people who came to me were the ones I'd chosen. My friend, a couple of colleagues from the security department who'd helped me memorize my tickets, and a neighbor who'd given me a ride when my Honda finally started acting up. These were my true, newfound family. People who didn't have to prove their worth. That very first night, when I slept on a mattress in the middle of an empty room, my house had felt oppressively empty. But that Saturday night, listening to my friends' heartfelt laughter and looking at empty pie plates, my house finally felt like it belonged. And that was all I needed.